Welcome back to the deep dive. We have pulled together an incredibly rich stack of source material for you today.
We really have.
We're diving into what it actually takes to forge a genuinely fulfilled life in, well, an age that's just defined by hyper-safety, distraction.
And so much regulation.
Yeah, exactly.
Our sources this time are basically giving us a roadmap. A roadmap for, internal calibration.
So our mission here is to synthesize these keys to personal growth.
Right. Things like why the ability to change is our greatest gift and how genuine skill acts as the bedrock of real security.
And we're going to anchor this whole conversation around a fundamental tension that just runs through all of these sources.
It is.
It's this growing cultural divide between the need for real-world calibration, what the sources call gravity, and the societal push towards total safety.
Controlled environments.
Yes.
And that tension, it really starts with how we see our own lives, specifically our most valuable resource, time. We always hear people say that life speeds up as they get older.
We all feel it, right? It feels like some kind of trick, but there's almost perfect mathematical reason for it. Think about it. When you were 10 years old, a single year was monumental. It was 10% of your entire life.
A huge chunk.
Yeah.
But when you hit, say, 50 or 60, a year is just. It's a tiny fraction of your life.
It feels like a quick edit.
Yeah, exactly. The sources use this great analogy of driving the same route over and over.
Oh, I like this one.
The first time, it's long, it's full of new things, but by the 50th time you do it, you barely even register the journey.
Because your brain has just stopped recording new information. It's on autopilot.
Right. And that loss of novelty, it links directly to this human tendency to squander opportunity.
We've all heard the stories. Someone survives a huge crisis, a health scare,
A near-death experience.
and they swear they're going to change everything. But statistically, those changes, they fade. So why does that gift of change fail to stick?
Because real lasting change requires intentional introspection. It means you have to analyze your past, admit where you messed up, and have the discipline to course correct.
That's the hard part.
It is. And the source material argues that this inability to make lasting adjustments, it comes from a deep-seated lack of will to self-analyze, to admit fault.
So if you haven't built that muscle of introspection before a crisis, you can't just magically find it during one.
No, you can't. It really speaks to the importance of being coachable.
I see.
Absolutely.
You're
The
right.
ability to just take direction, to listen to instruction from someone who has mastered what you're trying to learn.
Yeah.
It's one of the best predictors of success.
In any field.
In any field. If you're not open to being told you're wrong in jiu-jitsu, in business, whatever, you just can't improve.
Okay, that desire for improvement leads us straight into this whole idea of insecurity. The sources make a really powerful case that so much of our modern anxiety, it stems from not having a genuine trade.
Or as a skill, an area of real expertise. Competence is internal security.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if you've genuinely earned a black belt, or you're known as a master carpenter, or you can just play an instrument at a high level, you own that.
Right, you have a field of competence.
And that feeling is the antidote to needing external validation all the time.
You gain proof of your own willpower. You started at zero, and through really hard effort, you became good.
Contrast that with the vulnerability of someone who has never had a thing to just throw themselves into.
But this pursuit of a skill, it clashes with modern life, doesn't it?
It does. It clashes with modern satiation. The sources really critique distractions like video games.
For the average user, at least.
Yes, for the average user. They steal your desire by giving you a simulated feeling of achievement. You get that dopamine hit without actually accomplishing anything in the physical world.
Now, we have to be nuanced here.
Of course.
We've all seen elite pro gamers making millions playing StarCraft. For them, it is a real-world skill.
For sure. But for the vast majority, that simulation just dulls the hunger you need to go after something difficult in the real world.
And the sources also point a finger at the traditional school system for making this problem worse.
They really do. They argue that schools tend to just teach stuff rather than introducing possibilities or fostering innate talents.
Oh, the example of the wise ass is perfect. The quick-witted kid who's told to shut up all year.
And then at graduation, they win the class clown award.
It's insane. Instead of channeling that natural comedic timing, it gets suppressed.
And the sources argue that many educators, they opted for stability over risk-taking in the private sector.
So they might inadvertently discourage students from chasing big dreams.
Right, which creates a cycle of discouraging future innovators.
Okay, let's shift focus to this concept of calibration. This is where that idea of real-world gravity really comes in.
Right. So the sources say that early experiences with hardship like tough sports practices or working construction,
Or just genuine poverty.
all of that provides an essential baseline of misery. If you spent a summer doing hot, hard donkey work,
Drinking warm water from a hose, eating off a lunch truck.
then other challenges, like the comfort of an office job, they just don't register as that difficult.
It puts everything into perspective. As the sources say, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Exactly. Without that baseline, a minor inconvenience can feel like a total catastrophe.
And you see this contrast so clearly in how different groups approach risk.
Very clearly. Blue-collar workers, people dealing with power saws, scaffolding, real physical danger, they're constantly calibrated.
They have to weigh danger every day. Do I set up the proper scaffolding or just use the ladder?
It's a constant trade-off just to get the job done.
But surely modern society needs more safety measures, right? To protect people.
Of course, safety is vital. No one is arguing against that. But the sources suggest that the white-collar crowd, living these increasingly sterilized, air-conditioned lives, they lose that real-world calibration.
So when a systemic crisis hits,
They lose all sense of proportion. They demand 100% safety uber alles, which just leads to panic and massive overreaction.
because they've lost that ability to judge relative risk.
Yes, and we see the consequences of this everywhere,
Right.
especially in regulation. The sources use Los Angeles building codes as a perfect example.
A system run by process people.
Totally. They're focused on deterring risk, not facilitating progress. The regulations create these insane costs, like extreme engineering for foundations.
Which then acts as a total deterrent to building new housing.
It prioritizes documenting the process over the practical needs of a city, and you get housing shortages.
This reliance on comfort and process, it raises huge questions about media and public authenticity.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
When the system prioritizes a narrative, integrity often gets mortgaged.
The sources get into this, right?
They do. They argue that many figures in the media and institutions showed this willingness to just sacrifice scientific agnosticism for narrative control.
The sources specifically bring up the controversy around ivermectin.
Yeah, they note that the drug is on the World Health Organization's list of essential medicines. Its creator won a Nobel Prize for it.
And yet, many media outlets just repeatedly called it horse dewormer.
And the authors, they felt betrayed by that, by the lack of impartial scientific neutrality from supposed experts.
They felt like when people on TV claimed to know things they couldn't possibly have verified, they were just showing allegiance to a narrative.
Not to facts. And this adherence to a narrative, it leads us to why so many people conform.
The primal fear of being ostracized.
The tribal instinct. We are hardwired not to want to be thrown out of the tribe.
I think there was an anecdote about this.
Yes, about a leaf blower law in L.A.
Ah,
How casual social judgment just overrode any factual accuracy in a conversation.
people would rather just conform to the social consensus than risk being cast out.
Even in a super low-stakes setting. And that fear, it circles right back to skill and security.
How so?
If you are truly elite at what you do, a master carpenter, a top comedian, you can afford to be unpopular. People need your skill.
But if you're mediocre,
If you're mediocre, your whole identity might be tied up in belonging to the right group.
Yeah.
You can't afford to speak out.
you sacrifice authenticity for affiliation.
Exactly.
So if the world is rewarding this kind of internal security, this real-world calibration, how do we build it? How do we build that internal resistance?
The sources are really clear on this. It starts with the primacy of the physical motor.
We have to reject the idea that fitness is just for vanity.
Completely. Your body and mind are intrinsically linked. Going for a walk after writing, for instance, is essential. It generates energy, mental clarity.
You're oxygenating your ideas.
You literally are. And we also need to stop making our environment so sterile.
Okay, explain that.
The sources draw a parallel between the immune system and exercise. Astronauts lose muscle mass without gravity, right? Our immune system is the same. It needs to work out. It needs to fight bacteria to stay strong.
That's why we see things like rising peanut allergies.
Yes. The focus becomes removal, not building tolerance. We are depriving the system of necessary challenges. We need friction.
And that necessity for friction is perfectly captured by the jiu-jitsu philosophy.
Oh, it's the perfect model. In that environment, there's just no room for self-delusion.
If you do something wrong, That leaves you vulnerable.
You can get caught immediately. It forces a mindset of constantly seeking out your own mistakes.
You're not married to your ideas.
You actively want people to tell you why you're wrong so you can improve. It's pure, brutal self-correction.
And finally, the sources urge us to cultivate curiosity and embrace risk.
Curiosity is the engine of growth, even if it annoys people around you.
It's that internal hunger, not necessarily innate talent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They use the analogy of the enthusiastic dog at the pound. It might be a mutt, but if it has a strong motor and a desire to work, you can teach it anything.
Yeah. And that hunger should be channeled into saying yes to things that scare you.
Whether it's stepping on a stage, physical competition, racing a car, do it now.
Before the obligations of life mortgages, family limit your ability to take those meaningful risks.
So the path is pretty clear. It demands intentional self-correction, acquiring hard skills, the mental calibration that only comes from hard work.
And the skepticism to reject easy, conforming narratives. And these cultural currents we've talked about, hyper-safety versus intense, authentic competition, it really suggests the world is splitting into two environments.
What the sources call safe spaces and octagons.
On one side, the sterilized, regulated safe spaces trying to remove all risks.
And on the other, the octagons, where reality is brutal, feedback is immediate, and authenticity is everything.
The sources provocatively suggest that eventually the safe spaces are going to have to come to the octagons and go, we need protection.
Which is the inevitable conclusion of this cultural separation.
And that raises the ultimate question for you, the listener, right now. What steps are you taking today to build your internal resistance and calibrate yourself for the future you know is coming?
That's the real deep dive homework.